Alright guys, so since we're gonna pressurize, check for leaks, we gotta tighten up all our straders. Remember what I said, to always back this up. Make it nice and snug. Take a walk over here to the front, do the same. Nice and snug. Don't want any leaks there. All right. So now we're gonna put our gauges on here. Make sure your gauges are closed. And over here we have our nitrogen tank. One thing I do want to mention is that you never want to exceed the pressure that it was tested at the factory. 410A, it's kind of hard to exceed that because it's so high pressure. But for other units with R22, let's say for air conditioning, you just want to be wary of that you don't exceed that test pressure. Because you might burst your coils. So as you can see there, it's going to be on the nameplate. Test pressure was 596 psi for the high side, and for the low side 236 psi. So here you have your nitrogen gauge. I already have it attached. I'm gonna get my yellow service hose, close it off. My gauge here is busted. I hit it earlier pulling it up, but you can see that right there it's regulated for 200, so I'm going to increase it. That was too much. So 300 should be good. All right, so what I like to do when I'm pressure testing, I like to feed it through my high side. just so it'll go through your high side, go through your unit, and come back. And if you see it rise on your suction side, then you know you have no restrictions. So as you can see, I'm feeding it through my high side. I open up my high side, and my low side is starting to rise as well. So we know nothing's blocking that nitrogen in our system. So we're feeding at 200 psi-G, a little less than 200. We'll let these sides equalize, and then we'll begin to leak test. So I'm gonna cut it off right there. We're around 225 on our low side and at 275 on our high right now. And it'll start to equalize, but we could start checking for leaks. And I go old-fashioned. Soap bubbles. This is actual Cal Blue micro leak detector, and what you want to do is you want to spray wherever you think there would be a leak. So here we are spraying at the fittings that we just installed, or the TXV we just installed, and if we did have a leak, we would start seeing this bubble up, right? You start seeing bubbles start to form, and that's the concept behind leak testing with soap bubbles. So we'll let that sit there a little bit. Come over here to our filter dryer, do the same. Anywhere you braze or anywhere you suspect there could be leaks, spray some soap bubbles in it. I always do the Schraders because you never know. Sometimes you'll be going crazy looking for a leak and it was at the Schraders the whole time. Looks like our pressures are at 225 and 270. I'm gonna leave them there for a little while. But yeah, that's the basic concept. So you got to put your nitrogen gauge on your tank. You don't want to exceed the test pressure of the coils from the factory. And what I like to do, I like to open up my discharge side, put the nitrogen through there, and then if I start seeing a rise on my suction, I know I don't have a restriction. And then for leak testing, like I said, anywhere you suspect a leak, you spray your bubbles on it, and with that amount of pressure you should start seeing something bubble up. So far so good. Looks like we did a good job brazing. But we'll leave it under pressure for a while, depending on how critical the system is. If it was refrigeration, you're going to want to leave it over pressure overnight, make sure you have no leaks. But when it comes to air conditioning, you could leave it for an hour or so, depending on the size of the unit. This unit isn't the biggest, so you can leave it for an hour or so, come back, write down your pressures that you left it the nitrogen at, and then adjust for change of temperature, because you know, pressure temperature relationship. So right now On our high, on our low side, we're at around 225, and we're at 275 on our high side. So we'll leave it like that for a little while and see if the pressures drop. All right, guys. So it looks like our pressure's held up overnight. I left this unit charged overnight, and I got sent to another call. So it looks like we're ready to vacuum. They adjusted for, well, temperature. Obviously it's a lot cooler now than it was when I charged the unit, but yeah, they held up. So looks like we have no leaks, so we can start the vacuuming process now. Sadly, I don't have my S-mans, so I do not have a micron gauge with me. So we'll just be doing a vacuum test after we leave this unit in a vacuum for about an hour, and make sure that we stay in a vacuum for about 15 minutes and it doesn't rise to atmospheric pressure. So with that being said, let's show how to hook up a vacuum pump. So first, I have a 4-port manifold. So it comes with a vacuum hose, so we're going to be using that. So right now I took off that hose. I'm just venting out our nitrogen, relieving the pressure from the system, and then we'll be hooking up to our vacuum pump.